No problem. Chocolate. Oh. लेकिन हमारा लगता जी ने चेंज करो पर
ना वॉल्यूम कम नहीं थी होता
Yes, Chairman, it has. Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. DeWise.
Here.
Ms. Fisher.
Here.
Mr. Grillo.
Here.
Mr. Parikh.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Scott. Chairman Sabrowski.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The minutes from the January 9th, 2025 available. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or edits for? If not, can I get a motion for the approval?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. DeWise.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
Mr. Grillo.
Yes.
Mr. Parikh.
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts.
Yes.
Chairman Sabrowski.
Yes.
Thank you.
Present, we have a presentation this evening. It's an informal presentation from my dynamic engineer.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Thomas Roselli. I'm an attorney from the law firm Roselli and Roselli. I'm here on behalf of Larry Sachs, the attorney of record who got called out of state on an emergency. We are here this evening for an informal presentation on behalf of Paramount Realty NJ LLC for a proposed self-storage facility which is located at Main Street and the Garden State Parkway here in obviously Sayreville, New Jersey. It's blocks 333.02, lots 1, 2, and 3. I have Tom Mueller from Dynamic Engineering Consultants, who is going to explain to you and show you our concept for the property. And we also have a representative of the company for any questions. I would like to ask Tom Mueller to come up and begin his presentation.
I have the two exhibits.
I have some handouts of the same PowerPoint if you guys want them.
Bring PowerPoint presentation, but there's no slide. Hold on, let me see. Oh, there you go. I found it.
And just to note, Mr. Scott has arrived as well.
Also, maybe we can.
Hold on, hold on, thank you. Time this.
Yeah, sorry.
Everyone else?
All right, good evening. My name is Tom Mueller. I'm with Dynamic Engineering Consultants. I'm the applicant's civil engineer for the project. I've been involved in this project for a few years by now. I presented in front of this commission a few years ago. It was actually previously reviewed last in 2023 by Sera under a different applicant, Insight Property Group. They've since left the project and Paramount Realty took over the project. From a grand scheme of things, it's almost identical. We did shave back some of the yield, and which I'll go through in a few minutes. But what we're here tonight is basically to refresh you with this project and hopefully take the next steps with a redevelopment plan amendment to proceed with the next steps of the project. So there's just a really short PowerPoint here. I'm not going to go through everything here, but Paramount Realty is a new applicant, so I believe they would be requesting to be deemed an approved redeveloper for this project. But obviously, you could read about them. They're a very large developer throughout the state and throughout Pennsylvania. I've personally worked with them on many projects, including self-storage projects, so they're more than capable. But as Tom mentioned, this is block 333.02, lots 1, 2, and 3. We have frontage on Main Street only. There's also frontage on the Garden State Parkway, but our only access is on Main Street. The site's about 3.4 acres. We have about 316 linear feet of frontage on Main Street. And then there's a large JCP&L transmission line easement in the rear of the site. So the first few slides are really just going through the Paramount history and what their previous projects are. But if you want, we could skip to
Which slide?
slide just two more slides. Yep.
Slide 6?
Yep, perfect. Thank you. So this is the site. This is just an aerial image. Right now it's undeveloped. Our frontage is on Main Street, which is in the middle of the exhibit. North is to the top of the page. You see the Garden State Parkway on the right side of the exhibit, but as I mentioned, we're only fronting on Main Street. Then you have the Kennedy Apartments immediately to the west of us, and then you have Robin Hood Drive to the south of us. And as I mentioned, previously undeveloped. There's a pocket of wetlands along the front of the site. So as you see on the next slide, the project was designed to avoid that. I do have a colorized version of this site plan. So if you don't mind skipping to the last slide, that'd probably be the best thing to look at.
Slide 9?
Yep. Oh, actually, sorry, it was part of a separate exhibit, but if that's not available,
I
that's
have that.
Yeah.
Which one do you want?
great.
This one?
Part of the printed package has the rendering at the end.
Okay.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. So same exact north orientation, Main Street's on the bottom of the page, the Parkway's on the right side of the page, but this shows exactly what we're proposing. It's just a colorized version of the site plan that was submitted. It shows Main Street on the bottom of the page, and then it shows them one main access drive coming in on the western side of the site. So it's a two-way movement coming into the site. And then it opens up to the back where we have our parking area and then our self-storage building shown in the orange color. So one of the major things that we did since this was last presented in 2023 was that we reduced the height of the building by one full story. So we reduced the size of the building by over 22,000 square feet. We also were able to redesign the building footprint to provide an internal loading area. Previously, there were no internal loading areas. All the loading would essentially happen outside the building. But we were able to rework the parking and rework the building footprint a little bit to allow for that internal loading area, which is shown in that brighter orange color. And as a result of that, we were able to reduce the gross floor area to 109,537 square feet. So that includes a footprint of 24,333 square feet. There's a small cellar, which is 13,000 square feet. And then the floors above that are basically 22,000 square feet on the first floor and then 24,000 square feet on floors 2, 3, and 4. Other than that, there have been no major site plan changes. The driveway and the location of the access to Main Street has been reviewed and approved by the county. There was a lot of thought that went into where that went due to the wetlands locations, due to our separation to the driveway, to the Kennedy Apartments to the west of us, due to the site triangle considerations to the Garden State Parkway ramp. That driveway was the ideal location and it is approved by the county. We're more than willing to provide the traffic analysis to support this as we advance with the project. But this driveway has been designed to be safe and definitely efficient for this site. I think it goes without saying how limited traffic is for self-storage uses just in general. They're extremely low traffic generators. You're seeing a couple customers a day. This is not a daily use operation. It's truly just for long-term storage for the local residents. That's really it from a grand scheme of things on the layout. Just really quickly on zoning, we are in a redevelopment area. This is the waterfront redevelopment area, parcel J. The underlying zoning is in the LI4 zone. So the main purpose of the redevelopment amendment that's being requested is simply to add self-storage as a permitted use in that redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan is from 1999, so obviously it's quite dated at this point. Self-storage was not contemplated when the redevelopment plan was established back in 1999, and we're simply asking for this use to be permitted. There are a number of other permitted uses, like in the LI4 zone, warehouses are permitted and much more intense uses are allowed in the redevelopment plan. This is one of the most passive uses you could have, and it's an ideal type of use for this type of property. There's also some more relatively minor revisions to the amendment or to the redevelopment plan we're asking for, such as minimum lot area is required to be 5 acres. But as I mentioned, the site is only 3.4 acres, so that's just a minor bulk change that we are requesting. There are no adjacent properties that are available for purchase or anything. We're completely blocked to the north from the JCP&L easement, so it's just an existing condition that we're asking for clarification on. And then we're just looking for clarity on the building height. There is really no requirement for building height in terms of number of stories or height of the building now. We just want to establish the fact that this is a 4-story building with a cellar and just have that adopted into the redevelopment plan. And then finally, there are no specific requirements for parking or loading for self-storage uses. We have a lot of industry data that shows that this project would be perfectly suited with the amount of loading and parking that we have proposed. So we did provide a red line markup of the redevelopment plan with our recommended parking requirements and loading requirements. So that is something we would ask the borough to consider. But other than that, that's the grand scheme of the site plan design. And then just for a quick visual, we have some elevation drawings that were prepared that just show you what this building is going to look like. So I'm sorry if you don't mind going back to the PowerPoint. I think you just have to drag it over to that. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. This is just an example rendering for the site, just showing what the elevations of the site building could actually look like. So it's all completely surrounded on all 4 sides by an aesthetic facade. It's not just CMU block in the back. They actually wrap the entire building with a very gorgeous facade design. There's no lighting or windows or anything above the first floor. There's very limited windows just for the office, just for your standard access into the office. But you're not going to see large windows or signs or lights like you see on some modern self-storage buildings. We're very aware of the fact that there are residential uses in the area, so we are not proposing anything along those lines. It's a very subtle design. This is just basically the first draft of the design, and it's subject to some refinement, but this is roughly what they're considering doing on this site. The rendering on the left side of the screen also shows how far set back we are from Main Street. It shows some of those trees along the front of the site and that wetland area. So we're not right up on the street. It's really set back a few hundred feet from the road. And then the image on the right simply shows the interior where the parking is going to be. You essentially won't be able to see that from Main Street, but it just shows that we're wrapping the entire building in a nice facade. And then the next slide just shows another 2 perspectives of the building. Just on the left shows the rear of the site where some of those loading areas are going to be. And then the right side of the screen just shows what the building is going to look like from the Garden State Parkway off-ramp. So you could just see the mass of the building compared to the roadways. But that's really my presentation. Just we're taking the first step here and be happy to answer any questions or go over anything I missed.
Questions or comments from the commissioners?
So just to double check my writing, you've got a 13,000 square foot basement, 22,000 square foot first floor and 24,000 square foot second floor.
Second, third, and fourth are 24,000.
Oh, second, third and fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
And is the basement used for storage space
Yep.
for customers or is it operational storage space.
It's all storage for customers.
And how many units do you get out of all that space?
The unit mix is still being established. It's something that would be done over the next few months, but just in general, you'd see like between 800 and 1,200 units in this building. It really depends on what size the market demands, smaller units or bigger units.
Thank you.
My question is just about how it's going to be visible to the residents. I understand that it's kind of a very deep property. So is the top of the building going to be visible, even though it's not lit, to the residents on the other side? Or will they just see the trees and the facade and the driveway? How much will they see?
They might see the third or fourth floor. They're not going to see the full building. It's going to be substantially buffered, but there will be some visibility of the building above that existing tree line. The Robin Hood Drive residents, I've been out there a number of times. They're all inward facing, obviously. None of them face onto Main Street. They all face Robin Hood Drive and the streets inside. There's a fence along that Main Street property line, and we offset that driveway from Robin Hood Drive, so you're not really going to have any headlight glare going in down Robin Hood Drive. But to answer your questions, a part of the building will be visible, but you won't see any lights or anything or windows at that elevation.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just looking at the general notes. I think there's 3 or 4 different owners of these different parcels. Is that correct? You don't own the site outright, from what I'm seeing?
No,
Or the developer, I should say.
Paramount's the contract purchaser, and it's owned by 2 people, James Leonard and Frederick Curtis, to my knowledge. That's based on most recent tax information that I have. But we don't own the property yet. We're just the contract purchasers.
Is this open 24 hours?
No, it won't be open 24 hours. We haven't established exact hours yet, but the office is your general hours, like 7 a.m. to 8 p.m.-ish, but it's not always open.
I don't know if it was discussed yet, but was there, and I don't want obviously testimony at this point, but just a discussion on the circulation of, or which way traffic would flow? Is there going to be limited access, or how will that work?
It is a main two-way driveway to Main Street. It's all going to be focused in that one driveway, but then it is 2 ways throughout the entire site. So as cars come back down to Main Street, they can make a right or left back onto Main Street. That has been approved by the county, but we're not forcing lefts or rights out of the Main Street driveway. They can go left or right.
Mr. Chairman, our office previously reviewed this use in the past. We thought it was a reasonable use because of the abnormal lot size and the restrictions with traffic, how it's low intensity use. We did have some concerns with the driveway where we thought a right in, right out might be more efficient because of the proximity to Robin Hood Drive. It's a borough design standard to stay a minimum distance from driveways, so that would be something that we'd have to look at. But the lot is limited because of the JCP&L easement and the wetlands. So they designed around it. There aren't many other uses that can fit on this property, so it would be reasonable. However, there are a couple amendments we would need to make to the redevelopment plan, such as parking, loading, as described. The previous time they came in, there were height concerns. However, they fixed that, so they have made some adjustments. But it would all be something that we would need to look into. But it would be a reasonable use, just it would need to be approved by the commissioners.
Sure, Vina.
So I'm obviously looking at the site plan for the course. And I have worked with storage facilities before, so I do agree it's a benign use, especially for a site like that. But I would recommend, and I'm sure it will be covered by this site plan when they review it. But since we're making an amendment to the redevelopment plan, right? Something to look at is, I'm looking at the Main Street view. You do have some trees planted, but I would recommend some shrubbery too, a high shrubbery, so that there is a visual screening and you don't see the bottom. Because I have noticed with trees being planted, still the bottom half is seen. And I think for residents living across the street, it makes sense to have that visual barrier and make it more attractive. The other thing I noticed is your landscape buffer along the west side. I know you're trying to fit in as much with landscaping, but there is a sliver where the trees or the landscaping thins out. I think just looking at the layout, there are some adjustments that you can make to the building angle so that you get a little more buffer in that sliver area. You know what I'm talking about,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Because if you tilt the building slightly towards the basin, you will be able to get a wider buffer along that sliver area. And I think that would be quite appreciated.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we could look at. It is important to note this building is completely compliant with the existing bulk requirements in terms of setbacks, meets the 50-foot setback up to all property lines. But I fully understand what you're looking at. We could definitely take a look.
It would be like, suppose there was no redevelopment plan in place. You would be in front of the zoning board and you're trying to justify your use variance with the positive criteria, right?
Right.
So then in that sense, aesthetic improvements or landscaping helps you gain that use variance. Luckily, you're amending the redevelopment plan, but I think that is something the agency would want to see, the board would want to see as well.
Absolutely. Yep. We also have that sidewalk along that western property line, so I might be able to flip that to the other side of the driveway to pick up that green space.
Any additional questions? Mr. Rosati? Anything?
If there's no other questions, we also have a representative from Paramount if they have any questions. Otherwise, we would have just asked that, any other feedback you'd want to give us, because we'd like to proceed with an application.
Well, here's my recommendation, and I did speak to Mr. Sachs about this already. This application, not in front of this board, but in front of Borough Council, received quite a bit of concern by local residents. One of the recommendations I had early on with Mr. Sachs, which hasn't been done at all, was a community outreach. I specifically would ask that you engage in that. We can assist with that community outreach by providing a meeting space or what have you, but I think it's important for you to be able to talk to the residents and see what their concerns are. And it looks to me that you've really addressed them in many ways, but I think it's important for them to be comfortable as well with this application. And then we can begin the more formal process after that.
We have no problem with that, and we'll start making arrangements between Mr. Sachs, my clients, and the board to come up with a date where we could get a word out to the public and definitely have that outreach.
Thank you, Mr. Rosali. Appreciate it.
Anything else from the board this evening? Feedback?
I think
We'll
we're
take
good.
that under consideration along with the items that were mentioned tonight, and we will see you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
All right, moving on in our meeting this evening, we have a discussion. I think it's a simple discussion on the Main Street speed reduction study. I know Justin has some discussion, but before we get to that, all I can say is when we think things are easy, things are never easy, right, Justin?
Unfortunately. So we tried to save you a little money just by talking directly to the county. We told them that we believe this road qualifies as statute to 25 miles per hour due to the schools, the municipal building, and they agreed with us, but they also said at some point this road was changed from 25 miles per hour to 30 miles per hour. So you need to give us something else that shows why we should change it. So the first step was to provide that speed survey we did, where the police for a week took the speed of the cars. The results came in, and the 85th percentile, which is the free flowing speed, was higher than 30 miles per hour. It was 31 and 36 miles per hour respectively. Now that sounds like it might be good, but in this application, you want your speed to be within 5 of the free flowing, because then you could just say cars are doing this anyway. It's safer. We have to change it. Now we need a formal engineering report to justify changing the speed limit. So that'll include reviewing other 25 mile per hour speed limits, coming up with solutions to get lower speed, such as speed limit signs. So we put together a proposal to do the required engineering report to try to get Middlesex County to lower the speed limit. Any questions on it I could answer?
Justin, I think it might be important to note that it was the borough that requested the county raise the speed limit to 35. It wasn't just arbitrary. The borough put in a request to raise it at some point, and now we have to justify why we would like it lowered.
You said the borough requested the 25? Yes, yes.
Raise? Do we know when that happened? Because I'm going to say that had to happen.
It was a long time ago.
Long time.
It was when they took possession, I think.
Before Dave Samuel was borough engineer, which was 40 years.
Yeah, because I know at one time,
Or does it even go that fast?
at one time,
Said it in
MacArthur
me.
Avenue was a county road.
Yes.
And they flip-flopped MacArthur Avenue with that portion of Main Street to make that a borough road.
Yes.
But times do change, and I think the recognition is, and if you, obviously, even that limited survey we had, one of the concerns, or one of the major concerns is safety, traffic safety. And even the reduction of 5 miles from 30 to, or 30, from 30 to 25, I think can have a significant impact, particularly on the work we've been talking about down in that area. So we want to discuss further, I don't mind, but I would like to get a motion tonight to see if in fact we can move forward with the engineer's survey.
Question. Yeah. Is that 20? Are we talking 25 miles from Main Street by the Parkway all the way up here, or just the Main Street here?
Just to MacArthur. It's Washington to MacArthur.
Okay. Thank you. I'll second.
Roll call?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. DeWise?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes.
Mr. Parikh?
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anthony, attorney's report?
Thank you, Chairman. There's two items on the agenda regarding the Riverton site. One is a resolution approving a recognition agreement between Sayreville Seaport Associates, Urban Renewal, and Starbucks Corporation. The agency currently is in a master ground lease with the redeveloper, and the redeveloper is looking to lease the space to Starbucks. So there's a recognition agreement that acknowledges our master lease with the developer and just confirms that everything is in order. We're not, developer's not in default. This is a standard form document that is required from the leases. So you'll see this for Starbucks and other tenants that are looking to lease space at the Riverton site. Okay. The second resolution is a resolution approving a sub-project allocation agreement form for Bass Pro Shops. In the redevelopment agreement between Sera and SSA, the redeveloper is allowed to develop the property in sub-projects, and when they do so, they have to provide a sub-project form to provide the information. In this case, they're providing information on Bass Pro. The sub-project form is attached to the master redevelopment agreement. So again, this is a standard form, and you'll see this as new tenants come online. If anyone has any questions.
Questions or comments for our attorney?
For each, put your phone up there.
And I read the resolution that was attached with our agenda. Sera has to sign an additional agreement with each one of the sub-project companies for every company that you're in.
Yes. Yes, we're confirming that, number one, we have a master lease agreement with the redeveloper, and we're confirming, number two, that the redeveloper is not in default. Those are the two key points that they want to know before they enter into a sublease agreement with the developer. So we're assuring that the lease is in place and the developer is not in default, that they're in good standing.
Any other questions or comments? If not, moving on to engineer's report.
Mr. Chairman, as everyone can see in the photo provided, work is continuing at the river site. The Bass Pro Shop steel framing has been completed and they are continuing at a very rapid pace. I highly recommend going out to see it. It's very, very interesting to look at. We have our upcoming BDA meeting, February 25th, where we'll find out more about the in-site cleanup. And that's all I have for today.
Questions or comments for our engineer? If not, moving on to our executive director's report. Himanshu is on the other side of the world. Then we have Zach.
He's enjoying Australia. He sends his best. I spoke to him today. So as Anthony and Justin discussed, the Riverton project is continuing. You have the 2 resolutions that'll be coming up. Additionally, the management agreement for parcel A is being still in discussion between Middlesex County and the NJDEP. Middlesex County has done their part and submitted a proposed agreement to NJDEP and is currently awaiting a response. I spoke to Middlesex County earlier this week. They anticipate some response, either a signed agreement or some feedback in the coming weeks. Our FTA grant, which is to get the $1 million to study the connection between parcels B and C underneath the Garden State Parkway at Riverton. Sera has submitted all necessary documents to finalize the onboarding process. At the February 10th meeting of the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority Regional Transportation Advisory Committee, they approved an amendment for their fiscal year 2024 to 2027 transportation improvement program that added the Sayreville Waterfront Multimodal Transportation Improvement Project. So this is a critical milestone in securing our funding and getting us closer to being able to conduct that study. The area needed redevelopment recommendations. The planner is going to be coordinating with the planning board and borough council schedules to establish some timelines for preparing and presenting Sera's recommendations. Once these timelines are finalized, they'll be shared with the commissioners. It's important to note that they could be subject to change due to scheduling factors or unforeseen circumstances. The Main Street and downtown revitalization. So we've sent the letters out to the property and business owners in the Main Street area. We've already started receiving some responses. We're going to be scheduling some meetings in March to gather some additional input from the residents and business owners on what they would like to see in the downtown area. We also have some discussions underway about branding and marketing strategies to create a distinct district and a cohesive identity for the area. It can include an overarching theme that can be reflected in banners, signage, marketing materials, and enhancement projects. And I spoke to Commissioner Grillo about this. I don't know if you want to expand on that at all. I know it's your area of expertise.
Sure. We had a terrific meeting, I guess, about a week ago or so. Mr. Delina was involved in it as well, given his marketing background. So we were looking at how to create an effective brand identity for the downtown. Taking it slow, right? We've talked about this is very remedial. Let's get our feet wet and get the community to understand what we're trying to achieve. And so, as Zach said, banners, welcome signs, more trash receptacles, seating, things like that. But most importantly, making sure that what we're doing matches a theme that we are trying to push forward. So the first thing is trying to figure out that theme, right? What is downtown Sayreville? What are we trying to achieve by promoting it? Who are the people that we're trying to attract? So there's a whole sort of established process of doing that. And Kevin and Zach and John and Himanshu were all involved in that discussion. And we'll have some results to bring to you guys, I think, within the next month or so. And I think we're trying to hang on to the history of this community and really tell the story of the history of the community while also embracing that this is an area that does need revitalization, but they don't have to necessarily be two separate things.
Thank you. And the final item is the Sera Spotlight podcast was launched. So the first episode of the Sera Spotlight was released on the agency's social media channels. This episode featured Chairman Zabrowski providing an overview of Sera and the redevelopment process. If you haven't already, make sure to follow the agency on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn to stay updated. And thank you to Kevin for all of his work on that. It really turned out excellent. If you haven't had a chance to watch it, please watch it. very good. And that's all.
Questions or comments for Zach? And just one comment, I believe, Steve, that will be part of our workshop discussion, right? And for March, right? Where's that? Yeah.
Just one. The letter that went out, is that the same letter the commissioners received in December of the draft?
Yeah.
Is that the same letter?
Yes, it's the same one.
Kevin, I don't know if you want to take a moment to talk about some of the subjects that will be upcoming on the podcast that we'll be working on.
Good evening, commissioners. I hope you guys are having a great week thus far. So our first episode was filmed 2 weeks ago, I believe, edited, posted last week on social media. Our upcoming episode in March, we're looking to introduce all of you to our community. So Zach and I will be reaching out sometime shortly to schedule a time for you to come by in March and record a few seconds of yourself explaining who you are, what you do, and your involvement on Sera. That's for the next episode. And then after that, we're probably going to outline some other things. I know we were also discussing upcoming projects, having our professionals do some things as well. So we probably have about 3 or 4 episodes planned, and we're looking forward to getting all of you in front of the camera and having you explain yourself to the community. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kevin. And one of the parts too is we are opening up, we always have open discussion as to other opportunities for our podcast, opportunities for discussion, what have you. The theme of the podcast obviously is the promotion of the borough of Sera, right? How best to be able to extend our reach out to other communities and also to business owners and large corporations and small business owners and families that want to move into Saraville with an eye on why Saraville would be the right choice.
And they picked you to be the first guy?
Somebody had to do it.
Really? Oh.
And on that,
Chairman,
yes, go ahead.
I did have the opportunity to watch the podcast, and I think it was excellent work. It was so professionally done. I thought maybe a camera could take and actually, because it was very informative and rather than have the naysayers have any questions with regards to what Sera is all about and what Sera is attempting to do for the borough. That first episode said it all, and especially with the backdrop. So,
Appreciate that. Thank you. And one of the things nice about the podcast is it will be mobile, so we can go out to sites as time moves on as well. Yeah.
I'd like to second Rosetta's comment. Very well done.
Thank you. Moving on to authorization for payment of bills. We have a total of 50,420.35, which is split by 37,960.60, which is our operating total, and 12,623.75 for escrow. Any questions related to the bill list? And if not, can we get a motion to approve payments?
Make a motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
yes.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes.
Mr. Parikh?
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have 2 resolutions tonight to approve. Anthony already explained both A and B. The first is for the recognition agreement for a Starbucks lease, which was, and that's 2025-0208. Any questions or comments? If not, a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. Second that motion.
Roll call?
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes.
Mr. Parikh?
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our second resolution, 2025-0209, is for the sub-project allocation for the Bass Pro Shop. Questions or comments? If not, a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve on a roll call vote.
Second?
Roll call, Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Deweese?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mr. Grillo?
Yes.
Mr. Parikh?
Yes.
Councilwoman Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Chairman Zabrowski?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have commissioner comments, and just one comment I would like to make is I would like to thank our professional staff, Denise, Beth, Zach, Manchu, and our professionals for getting all their information early so that an agenda could be created early and presented to commissioners at an earlier date. This is what we're hoping to be the standard of care moving forward. There will be times where the agenda may be somewhat incomplete or resolutions because of resolutions coming at the last minute, but I do appreciate everyone's cooperation in getting that information out at a much quicker pace and a sooner date. Any other comments from our commissioners?
Chairman, would you like me to review the traffic pain point study?
Please.
Okay. So fellow commissioners, if you recall, I guess it was a couple of months ago, we had a discussion about developing a study that looked at various pain points, right? Intersections that have significant congestion or the potential thereof. The idea was to identify areas both that are potentially impacted by Sera's work. So places like Bordentown, Journey Mill, Cheesequake, as well as areas in the downtown and the proximate area that today see a lot of congestion, but may be impacted by some of the housing development that's going up. So the Borough Council authorized Acuity Consulting Services, which is the municipal planner for the town, to undertake that study. I worked with them. The chairman asked me to kind of take the lead on it and review their first draft, which I did yesterday. We had about a 2-hour meeting on this. And so I'm not going to go through it in detail. They'll do that probably. This will probably be ready in March, Chairman. But they've done a very good job thus far. They've looked at 4 locations. The first one is Chevalier and the Garden State Parkway, so the entrance today to Riverton. There are definitely some long-term concerns over truck traffic and turning widths and things like that. And if you drive that, like I do every day, it can be a fairly problematic intersection, and it's only going to likely get worse. And so there's some suggestions for traffic management there. They also looked at the intersection of Main Street and the Main Street extension. So when you're coming down from the police department and the vet hospital, and then of course, if you're coming down the extension, it's a somewhat strange intersection that gets bottlenecked, especially in the afternoons. So they've got some ideas for that. And then that also sort of has a butterfly effect because there is I think it's Stiegel Drive is where the new housing development check. All of that compounds itself, especially in the PM rush. And so they're looking at some options there to try to help move traffic a little bit more freely. Of course, as we all know, there's really only 2 roads in and out of the residential areas. It's Washington and Main. And so Main is fairly congested as it is. They also looked at the intersection of Washington Road and Ernston Road. So that's where the ShopRite, the new Dunkin' Donuts, the Shell station. From a vehicular perspective, it's really not all that bad, but the high school is there, right? And so you do have a lot of pedestrian traffic. And so they also looked at Main Street and Crossman, as I mentioned earlier. And then Himanshu and the chairman asked them to expand this and look at the Bordentown corridor as well. So they're going to look at Bordentown and Ernston, which I'm sure we all know is something to avoid at most times.
Repeat, where was that again?
Bordentown and Ernston, underneath the railroad bridge. The worst. And it's a fairly large intersection physically, but there's no right turn on red. There's a whole host of things that I think could be potentially improved. And the same thing at Bordentown and Cheesequake and Bordentown and Journey Mill. Those 3 sites will obviously be impacted by a lot of the work that Sera is doing in terms of industrial development. So we had a very productive meeting. They also included demographic information related to population and housing, commuting trends. They looked at the 2024 circulation plan, which was done by the previous municipal planner, tried to incorporate some of this. Remember, this is not a circulation plan. This is more of a site-specific, issues-driven plan. So I think we'll get some really actionable results that could be done at the municipal level. Most likely it's going to be at the county level, but at least give us some ideas about what some of the potential long-term challenges may be, especially as it relates to truck traffic. But I'll coordinate with the chairman and Himanshu and Zach, and I think they will have a final draft by March that we could look at.
May I make a comment about, I'd like to make a comment about the truck traffic. We won't comment about the traffic leaving the site, but I'm noticing a lot of trucks coming in too, and I hope that you address that.
Which site are you talking about?
Well, I guess I'm talking about right now the
Cheesequake Road site. I always thought about traffic, how the trucks get out. But I see more trucks now going toward that direction. And
The Arsenal site.
yeah. And I just been stopped just recently on Main Street near the Dunkin' Donuts on Raritan Street. And where the trucks seem to be going toward that site. And I hope that that's addressed, not just the egress of the trucks, but some trucks got to come in so they can fill up and get out and everything.
I'll relay that to them.
Yeah, and, but, before that, I guess having traveled in New York City, this is like nothing, but, the only place that I really noticed any serious traffic is at dismissal and entrance time at the high school and junior high school. And once in a while in the morning on Ernston and Bordentown. But other than that, I don't see, and a little bit maybe, it used to be more on the quick check, but nothing, you held up 2 minutes maybe. I just don't see the problem. I hope that's the worst problem we ever have, That's
Fair
all.
enough.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yep, go ahead, Justin.
Steve, I just wanted to give you a little update. CME is also a consultant from Middlesex County, and we are actually working on 2 of those intersections, Main Street and Crossman. We just awarded that project last year in October. They expect to start work in this summer. They're adding an additional lane at that intersection, so that should improve traffic. And then for Bordentown and Journey Mill, that they just acquired all the property, so they should be in final design. That should be bid this summer, and then construction will probably start next year. But if you need any additional information, I can provide it to you.
Yeah, I was remiss. I told the consultants they need to speak to you and Vina before they go final with this. So they'll be in touch with you guys as well.
Commissioner Grillo, just to also add, Middlesex County is currently doing a traffic study of the Washington and Ernston Road corridor because of the dismissal sort of traffic congestion.
They got it right the first time so well, Can't wait to hear what they come up with next.
They are looking at improving pedestrian safety.
Fill it with sand, maybe, what do they come up with?
So that it's also ongoing. So it is a known problem, and I think working in coordination, hopefully we'll be able to develop some sort of solution.
Rosa?
Just for Commissioner Grillo, at the Crossman and the Main Street, the study that's done there, a couple of days ago, there's an NJ Transit bus depot on Crossman, which, is that Sera's property over in that corner or? Okay, so there's more traffic coming from the left-hand side of Crossman because there's that access link bus depot that's tucked in back up in that area. And I couldn't tell if it was Sera's property because Sera does have property on Main Street in that area. I just wasn't sure if that was part of the property owned by Sera.
If you recall, that's actually, although that parcel is already mature, that we are studying that area itself, which would include that as a redevelopment area. So we don't have it, it's not one yet, but it is an area that we are studying and going to make a recommendation that it become a redevelopment area, specifically not for that parcel, but because of everything around it. I think would be an ideal area for that. Any other questions or comments? Steve, we appreciate that update. We look forward to the actual final report to the commissioners. I think some people say, well, why have it? We know we have traffic. Well, the question is, that's true, but we need to know the origins. We need to know the reasons, and we also need to have some recommendations on how to calm that traffic as well. So hopefully that will be a very insightful report. Any other commissioner comments? If not, I'll make a motion, or can I have a motion to open to the public?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? To help keep this meeting as organized as possible, we ask members of the public to approach, state your name, and strive to limit your comment to 3 minutes. All comments this evening should refer to redevelopment and agency and agenda items and be based upon NJSA 10:4-12A and the Saraville Economic and Redevelopment Agency rules. In the event a member of the public has questions they seek answers to, an appointment can be made during regular business hours with the agency's office. Thank you.
Open to the public. Anybody from the public who'd like to speak? Going once? Going twice? Vita, do you have any comments or anything that you'd like to share this evening? Okay. Anybody else from the public? If not, a motion to close public?
Moved.
Can I get a motion for, do we have executive session?
Make a motion?
Adjourn?
Well, it's always, didn't you say executive?
No, there's no,
I don't have
we don't
any.
have anything. So can we
Make a
use that
motion
as
to
a?
adjourn then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Everyone have a great evening. Good night, Trishar.
Good night.